Former Miss South Africa, that's Shudufhadzo Musida, has been chosen to be a representative for the UN Population Fund's Sexual and Reproductive Health Agency. Now, Shudu's role will be to advocate for universal access to sexual, reproductive and mental health of women and girls in the east and southern regions of Africa. The former Miss South Africa has been advocating for women's rights in her capacity for quite some time now. So let's find out from her about what this partnership actually means. Shudufhadzo joining us via our video link this morning. Great to see you as always, Shudu. Thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. And I suppose congratulations are in order. This is something you have always been passionate about, even in your leading up to being crowned Miss South Africa. We're told that part of what happens here is that the partnership is meant to help us get to Africa's Agenda 2063. Help us understand then what your role is in that.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me again. And thank you so much for the congratulations. This role is basically a continuation of the work that I've been doing, especially in the mental health space and the space of advocating for women's rights and children's rights. This role would mean bringing more awareness to the work that the UNFPA is doing, the goals and the mandates of the work that they're doing, which include child marriages, ending child marriages, unmet family planning, ending gender-based violence by 2030, and also making sure that the women and girls of East and Southern Africa, their rights and the things that they go through and the things that infringe on their human rights, there's visibility to them in order to engage society at large in all communities, not just a select few, to get involved as well. Yeah. So my role is about bringing awareness, being a regional voice that is advocating, as you said, for universal access to sexual and reproductive health as well as mental health for women and girls in the East and Southern African region.
Yeah, the issues that you've mentioned are ancient old, as urgent as they are for us to solve them. I wonder, in your own capacity, in the advocacy that you've been doing, whether you're getting a sense that we're finding new ways of being able to tackle these old problems.
I think we are finding, I wouldn't say that we're finding new ways. I think we're refining the ways that we've been using before, because one of the biggest tools that they use is engagement and collaboration, So, for example, the ancient old practices, especially in the African context, it's very difficult to break cultural and traditional norms that have been there even before we were around. But the most important thing is to make sure that the people on the ground are active participants of the change that they want to see. So not necessarily dismantling who we are as Africans, or not necessarily dismantling traditions, culture, religion, religious practices, but rather engaging the people on the ground, making sure that they're active participants without actually breaking the core of who they are.
Right.
So it's a collaboration. We cannot do it in isolation and just get there and say, okay, no, this is what we're going to do. It doesn't work like that. But it's a collaboration, and the UNFPA is an amazing team, and they've been doing this for so many years. I'll be learning from them as well, and also seeing how they engage the leaders in Africa as well and globally in order to find the changes that we want to see. So I don't think it's anything new, but it's a refining of practices as well. And I think the world is moving in such a fast-tracked way. I mean, there's 8 billion of us, which means there's 8 billion possibility, and humanity is getting stronger. And I think from the conversations I've had with them, they've said that the leaders, especially in East and Southern African, in the East and Southern African region, have been receptive to collaboration. So in advocating for women's rights, we're not compromising on the rights of women and girls, but we are finding ways to collaborate to make sure that the people on the ground, including the leaders themselves, also feel like they're part of the solution.
At the very least, if this is going to work, you're going to need the buy-in of everybody across the board. And I guess it does bring me to this more nuanced aspect of this kind of intervention. There's some kind of delicate balance to be struck here, right? I mean, the criticism in the past has always been concerns that organizations at a UN level, including the UNFPA, will enter some communities and would kind of have this kind of paternalistic approach to providing solutions to those communities, right? In a way that the communities themselves would find difficult to accept. So how do we get that right? Because there are human rights to be upheld, and the last thing you need is those without a voice being left voiceless. But also, these communities have autonomous ways of making sense of their own world. And the last thing you would need is them feeling like that is under threat.
Yes, which goes back to what I was saying. And I think in trying to find African solutions to African problems, like I said, it's really important to make sure that the people on the ground, especially the people that need the help, are active participants of those solutions in order for them to be sustainable. So it's important to go there and actually ask people what they need. And I think if you've been looking at the interventions over the last few years within the UNFPA and even the things that they've done, they've just recently went to Somalia. They do go on the ground and have conversations, because it's important to tell the stories, because the UNFPA alone or the UN alone cannot do the work by themselves. Like I said, there's 8 billion of us. Imagine if all of us could come together in order to actually make a change. One person making a change at a time when there's 8 billion of us means change is actually possible. Ending gender-based violence by 2030 means it's actually possible. But the thing about it is that it needs everyone, including the people on the ground, including the leaders themselves. And again, without taking away who we are as Africans. So I think what's happening is we're not trying to change the essence of who we are as Africans, but we are advocating for human rights.
Yeah.
And we cannot shy away from advocating and demanding the rights of women and children and human beings in the entirety because of ancient old practices. But we can say, okay, cool, we're not saying change who you are, we're not saying change the way you dress or anything like that. No, we are just saying that the women are equally as important as men. Their rights are important, and we cannot compromise on that. But we are willing to collaborate. We are willing to find a way forward. So I think, like even because I had this conversation with them on Monday as well, and it was so interesting to see how communication and collaboration are at the forefront. And that does not just mean with the UNFPA and the people that they work with, but it also means with society at large and government, and everyone needs to come together in order to make sure that this change happens. I think when I really heard the number, when I saw that it's 8 billion, it's just scary how things like gender equality are estimated to be reached in 300 years, only in 300 years. And that's if there is no investment. And that investment, yes, needs to be from all different spheres of structures of society, meaning government, private stakeholders, and the community, because yes, it needs to be monetary, but it also needs to be us actually lending a hand. Yeah. And also bringing awareness to the issues that other people on the African continent are facing, because to some extent we can be cocooned or live in isolation to the realities of so many women and girls across Africa.
Without a doubt, it's a mammoth task, but a noble undertaking. All the very best with the way forward. Thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. And once again, congratulations on this partnership. Shudufhadzo Musida, of course, former Miss South Africa in the year 2020. She's now partnered with the United Nations Population Fund's Sexual and Reproductive Health Agency.